Let me just restart. So, good morning, everybody. And so as I mentioned, from Calico Technologies, I'm a co-founder and director working on system-on-chip development for using some new technology called POSIT, and I'm going to go over the details of this. If you can see my screen, so I'm talking about the problem that we are trying to address. And so the floating point is a number system that has been in existence since a very long time, almost about 35, 40 years now. And the lot of disadvantages with floating point number system are inconsistent results and different results from run to run. As you can see on the right side of the screen, it also produces different results on different systems. So I'm not sure if many of you have observed, but these are the kind of problems that exist. It's an inflexible and a rigid number system, which means you have to use only 16 bits or 32 bits or 64 bits. And because of which it becomes a very highly power inefficient number system. So the technology that we are working on is something called a POSIT-enabled computing using technology that we have created called CRISP core, which is actually a Calico's CRISP-V processor with POSIT-enabled coprocessor. So the advantages of POSITs are it's actually a much higher accurate POSIT number system. It has much higher dynamic range for the same number of bits compared to floating point. POSIT produces consistent results across systems, and it is highly flexible. Use just enough number of bits for a given application. That is why it actually brings a very highly power efficient logic for implementing something like this. So if they're talking about, imagine all the computers in the world being twice as fast, using half the energy at half the price, and that is what is the power of POSITs actually. So this is a fairly new invention and done by Dr. John Gustafson. He's an American mathematician, truly creating a revolution in computing. And so Dr. John Gustafson actually is on the board of advisors for Calico Technologies since 2017. POSIT actually can be adopted across key verticals, and there's a whole list of things that are there with this. And it is also being widely adopted by multiple MSMEs, and so the list of the companies are here. But the most predominant one is Huawei is actually building 5G chipset using POSIT. So this is a very important information. And we have a serious competition because there are many startups in the world working on POSITs. So time is the essence. So about our system on chip, POSIT-enabled computing, it will actually power devices across segments, mobile, laptop, desktop, and servers. So we have to make a beginning. And so we're actually trying to create a system on a chip based on RISC-V architecture. This is a microprocessor architecture which is adopted by India. RISC-V and POSIT number system are both open source architectures, so there's no royalties involved. That is the beauty of this. And to make it a complete system level solution, we have enhanced our C++ compilers to support native POSIT computing. So, which means there are no modifications needed to the source code at all. And so we can actually build many SoCs for Indian defense, aerospace, 5G, etc., using this as the enabling core for fundamentally. RISC-V based designs powering mobiles is expected to come out in the market in less than 2 years, and server CPUs in less than 4 years. So this is a local design with a very high impact and very high potential to sell in the global markets. So far, these are the kind of things that have happened as far as this development is concerned. At Supercomputing Conference 17, we were selected for Emerging Technologies track about disruptive technology. And after that, in about a year's time, we actually created a coprocessor which can do POSIT-enabled computing, and we demonstrated this at Supercomputing Asia, a Singapore event in March 2018. Consequently, we cannot just sell the coprocessor. We teamed up with a processor company called BlueSpec. They also give tools for developing a CPU environment. And so we teamed up with them and we created our CRISP core. And we demonstrated our CRISP core in Zurich at a RISC-V workshop last year, almost at the same time. And we also demonstrated HIPC and VLSI conferences in India. Now, to top it all, actually, SAFAL is a Karnataka government initiative where they incubate companies, and so we are glad to say that we are the very first company to sign up with SAFAL. We're using, because of this, we get access to the EDA tools, shuttle for silicon manufacturing and post-silicon activities for testing and things like that. So, in terms of market opportunities, this is actually very wide. because the computing is such an important basic requirement everywhere. So Singapore, Australia, Japan, Europe, UK, many of these actually are already working on POSIT-enabled some design or the other in some form or the other. And so there are global efforts that are happening since 2016. Predominantly on the bottom left, you see actually Facebook has actually produced papers about POSIT. And there's also Tokyo Institute of Technology, which has actually talked about building accelerators using POSIT technology. And there are many others actually as captured, including Oxford University on the top left and all that. So in terms of, there's a growing application adoption. So one of the most important things is end-to-end deep learning compiler stack that has been developed by University of Washington, and it's called PVM. That is actually adopting POSITs, and all the rest on this foil are actually related to HPC and how HPC, high performance computing, can actually benefit from POSITs. So there's a global R&D working on this with different universities, as the names are there, University of Washington predominantly, and National Institute of Singapore, and the others on the screen. Calico Technologies is found by a high caliber team. We are technologists with international experiences in US, France, Australia, Singapore, and we have returned back to India to do some things in India and for India. And the time is now, and it's a very opportune moment for us. So you can see the list of companies where we have worked. And so as I mentioned, the advisory team, Dr. John Gustafson, the inventor of POSIT, actually is on the board of advisors. And Dr. Theodore Omzik is actually a US-based doctorate who's also helping us out with POSIT. About Calico Technologies itself, we are a HPC and AI company, and a lot of awards and accolades that we have got, including from Intel and so some of the other things that have happened in the world. So you can take a look at the list of awards that we have received. And so to summarize, POSIT-enabled computing actually to power devices across the segments. So mobile, laptop, desktop, servers, all of these actually require computing, and all this computing can be enabled using what we have built. And so we have built the basic building block called the CRISP core, using which we can actually develop multi-core processors from all the way from 2 to maybe even 1024 cores, targeting the HPC market and the AI markets. So it's a great opportunity for India because we've been talking about billions of dollars of foreign exchange flowing out because of chips and things like that. So this is an excellent opportunity. And our design is going to be the first POSIT-enabled CPU in the world, and it's actually proudly made in India for the world market. So as I mentioned, we are first incubating with SAFL. It's a Karnataka government initiative. So help has come from the state government. And when we're looking at help for the remaining part of the funding, foreign investors who are interested, they want to take away IP rights and they want to take majority stake in the company. So this is where we need immediate help from the center for funding, to build engineering samples, and later for high volume manufacturing, so that we can go global with this local development. So this is actually a key step, actually making Atmanirbhar Bharat in electronics and computers. And I think it's a very, very right time for us because we have competing technologies with the world companies. So thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity, and I'll be willing to take questions anytime.
So Dr.